Ladies and gentlemen, life is a journey, and as we cross the threshold of 60, we often come to a realization. The support we once relied on, our family, may not always be as strong or consistent as we had hoped. Children grow up and build their own lives. Friends move away and circumstances change. But does that mean we are left alone? Absolutely not. True support comes from the foundation we build for ourselves over the years. Today, I want to talk about 5 essential pillars that serve as the most reliable sources of support as we step into this new chapter of life. When you reach 60, one of the harshest but most liberating truths is that financial independence is not just an advantage, it's a necessity. You see, for most of your life, there's been a structure in place. Maybe you had parents who supported you. Maybe you had a job that provided stability. Or maybe you built a family that you hoped would be there in your later years. But what happens when that structure begins to shift? When the children you raised are now absorbed in their own lives? When the job you depended on is no longer there? And when the reality of aging means you can no longer take financial security for granted. That's when you realize that money isn't just about comfort, it's about autonomy, about retaining control over your own life. Now, some people don't like to talk about money. They think it's impolite or that it's somehow shallow to prioritize financial security. But here's the reality. If you don't have a solid financial foundation at 60, you are at the mercy of the world. And the world is not always kind. You can't afford to depend on the goodwill of others, not because people are necessarily bad, but because they have their own battles to fight. Your children, if you have them, are busy raising families of their own. Society isn't structured to take care of the elderly in the way we often imagine it should. And if you think someone else will step in and make sure you're okay, you're gambling with your future. The best way to avoid this trap is to take control before it's too late. First, you need savings. And I'm not talking about whatever's left over at the end of the month. I mean deliberate, disciplined saving that treats your future self with the same respect you give to anyone you care about. If you're already 60 and you haven't built this foundation, then you need to make financial stability your number one priority. Starting today, that means cutting unnecessary expenses, being smart with what you have, and making decisions based on long-term security rather than short-term comfort. Then there's investing. A lot of people shy away from investing because they think it's complicated or risky, but the real risk is assuming that your savings will sustain you without any growth. Inflation eats away at stagnant money, and if you're not actively making your money work for you, you're slowly losing it. That doesn't mean you need to become a stock market expert overnight, but it does mean educating yourself, understanding where you can put your money so that it continues to provide for you in the years to come. And let's not forget about healthcare costs. People don't like thinking about getting sick or needing care, but ignoring it doesn't make it go away. As you age, medical expenses are not a possibility, they're a certainty. If you don't plan for them, you're setting yourself up for hardship, or worse, for dependence on people who may not be willing or able to help you. Having a financial cushion for medical needs isn't just about survival, it's about dignity, about ensuring that when you need care, you get it on your own terms. So what does all of this mean? It means that financial security isn't just a nice thing to have, it's the foundation of your freedom. It's what allows you to make choices, to live life the way you want, to avoid becoming a burden to others, and to maintain your sense of self-respect. If you have money, you have options. If you don't, you are left hoping that someone else will take responsibility for your well-being. And let me tell you something. That's not a position you want to be in. At 60, you need to stop thinking about money as an abstract concept and start seeing it for what it truly is, the key to maintaining your independence, your health, and your ability to navigate the world on your own terms. If you haven't taken this seriously before, now is the time. Because in the end, it's not just about having enough, it's about having control over your own life. When you cross 60, your body starts sending you signals, sometimes whispers, sometimes shouts, aches that weren't there before, energy that doesn't last as long, and a sense that the machine you've been running for decades is finally showing some wear and tear. And that's not something you can ignore, because here's the reality. If you don't take your health seriously, everything else you've built, your financial security, your independence, your sense of control, starts to slip through your fingers. People think about health in the wrong way. They assume it's something that either happens to you or it doesn't, as if it's this random lottery. But that's not true. Health is something you negotiate with reality every single day. Every choice you make, what you eat, whether you move your body, how much sleep you get, whether you manage stress, either strengthens you or weakens you. And once you're 60, the margin for error becomes smaller. You can't afford to ignore the details anymore. Let's talk about movement. If you stop moving, you start dying. It's as simple as that. Your muscles weaken, your joints stiffen, and suddenly the things you took for granted, getting up from a chair without wincing, walking up a flight of stairs without catching your breath, become struggles. And if you think this is just a part of aging, you're wrong. It's a part of neglect. The people who stay strong into their 70s and 80s aren't just lucky, they put in the work. They lift weights, they go for walks, they stretch, they stay active. They don't let their bodies decide their fate, they fight back. And if you haven't been doing that, the best time to start was 20 years ago. The second best time is today. Then there's food. People eat like they're going to live forever, like the junk they put into their bodies won't have consequences. But at 60, your body isn't as forgiving as it used to be. If you keep feeding it sugar, processed foods, and excess calories, you're accelerating your own decline. Your body needs real nutrients, protein to keep your muscles strong, healthy fats to keep your brain sharp, and fiber to keep your digestion working properly. The problem is most people don't change their diet until they're forced to, until the doctor sits them down and says, you have diabetes or your heart's in trouble. But why wait for disaster? Why not take control now? And let's not forget mental health, because it's not just your body that starts to slow down if you're not careful. It's your mind. Depression, anxiety, and cognitive decline aren't just things that happen randomly. They're the result of years of habits of neglecting sleep, of letting stress pile up, of withdrawing from the world instead of engaging with it. If you want to stay sharp, you need to challenge your mind. Read books, learn new skills, have deep conversations, stay curious. The moment you stop using your brain, it starts to atrophy, just like your muscles. The truth is, your health isn't just about you. It's about the people who care about you, the people who will have to step in if you let yourself deteriorate. Because make no mistake, if you don't take care of yourself, someone else will have to. And do you really want to put that burden on others? Do you want to be the person who needs constant care, who can't move without assistance, who watches life pass by from the sidelines? Or do you want to be the person who is still strong, still independent, still capable? That choice is made every single day with every decision you make. So ask yourself, what kind of life do you want at 70, at 80? Because the work for that life starts now. If you want to be strong, if you want to be sharp, if you want to live with dignity, then you need to take your health as seriously as anything else in your life. Because without it, nothing else matters. When you hit 60, something starts to become painfully clear. Relationships shift. People you thought would always be around begin to fade into the background, not because they don't care, but because life pulls them in different directions. Your children have their own responsibilities, their own families, their own struggles. Your extended family, even your siblings, might not be as present as they once were. And if you've built your entire sense of connection around these people, you're in for a rough wake-up call. Because here's the hard truth. Blood may be thicker than water, but it's not always dependable. The mistake people make is assuming that just because they were surrounded by family in their younger years, they always will be. They think, well, my kids will take care of me, or I'll always have my relatives around. But that's not how life works. People get busy, people move away, people have their own problems, and when that happens, you can either sit around feeling abandoned, or you can take control of your own social well-being. Because here's the thing, you don't need to rely on family to have a strong support system. You need to rely on the people who actually show up. And more often than not, those people aren't connected to you by blood. They're connected to you by choice. That's why you need to invest in real friendships. Relationships that aren't built on obligation, but on mutual respect, shared interests, and genuine connection. You see, friends don't help you out because they have to. They help you because they want to, and that makes all the difference. A good friend is there not out of duty, but because they value you, because your presence adds something to their life. And if you've spent years neglecting friendships, assuming that family would always be enough, then it's time to rethink things. Friendships don't just happen, they require effort. And a lot of people, as they get older, stop putting in that effort. They isolate themselves. They stop making plans, stop reaching out, stop taking the initiative. Then when loneliness creeps in, they wonder why no one is around, but relationships, like anything valuable, have to be maintained. If you want strong friendships, you need to be the one who reaches out, who organizes the coffee meetups, who makes the phone calls, who checks in on people. You can't just sit back and expect others to do all the work. If you want loyalty, you have to offer loyalty. And it's not just about having people to talk to, it's about having people who hold you accountable. And when you're alone too much, it's easy to drift into bad habits. It's easy to let your health slip, to lose motivation, to stop engaging with the world. But a good friend won't let that happen. A good friend will tell you when you're slacking, will push you to keep going, will remind you that life isn't over just because you've hit 60. They'll challenge you to stay engaged, to keep learning, to keep growing. That kind of support is priceless. The other mistake people make is thinking it's too late to make new friends. It's not. Some of the best friendships happen later in life when you actually have the time and wisdom to appreciate them fully. But you have to put yourself in situations where friendships can form. Join a group, take up a hobby, get involved in your community, say yes to invitations. The more you put yourself out there, the more likely you are to find the people who will stand by you. Because in the end, the people who truly support you in your later years won't necessarily be the ones you expected. They won't always be family. They will be the people who choose you day after day, just as you choose them. And that is what makes them reliable. When you reach 60, there's a temptation to slow down, to step back, to convince yourself that you've done your part and now it's time to coast. But that's a dangerous mindset, because the moment you stop challenging yourself, the moment you stop adapting, you start fading, and not just physically, mentally, emotionally, even spiritually. You become stagnant. And stagnation is a slow death. If you want to stay independent, if you want to keep control over your own life, you need to be capable. You need to be able to rely on yourself. And that means continuing to grow, continuing to learn, and continuing to adapt to a world that won't slow down just because you have. A lot of people reach this stage of life and say, I'm too old to learn new things. And that's nonsense. You're never too old to learn. What you are is too comfortable, too set in your ways. And comfort, as nice as it feels, is a trap. It makes you weak. It convinces you that it's easier to stick to what you know, to avoid challenges, to let other people handle the complicated parts of life. But every time you do that, you give up a little bit of your independence. You rely on your kids to handle your technology. You rely on your spouse to take care of the finances. You rely on your doctor to tell you how to stay healthy instead of figuring it out yourself. And little by little, you become dependent. And once you're dependent, you're no longer in control. You have to fight against that. You have to keep learning, keep adapting, keep proving to yourself that you are capable. Maybe that means finally figuring out how to use the technology that everyone else takes for granted. Maybe it means learning a new skill, something you've always been interested in but never had the time for. Maybe it means making a conscious effort to challenge your own thinking, to engage with new ideas, to read books that push your understanding of the world. It doesn't matter what it is. What matters is that you keep your mind active, that you refuse to become complacent, and let's talk about resilience, because that's the heart of self-sufficiency. Life will throw challenges at you. That doesn't stop when you turn 60. If anything, the challenges get tougher. You'll lose people, you'll face health scares, you'll have moments of doubt, moments when it feels like the world is moving on without you. And if you haven't built up the mental and emotional strength to handle that, you'll crumble. You'll retreat into yourself. And that's when isolation sets in. But if you train yourself to be resilient, if you remind yourself every day that you are still capable, still strong, still adaptable, then you'll meet those challenges head on. That kind of strength doesn't come from waiting around for things to get easier. It comes from pushing yourself, from embracing difficulty, from proving to yourself that you can still handle whatever comes your way. It comes from making a decision not to fade away, not to become irrelevant, not to let life happen to you, but to actively engage with it, to keep growing, keep learning, keep standing on your own 2 feet, no matter how much the world changes around you. Because the truth is, no one is coming to save you. No one is going to hold your hand and walk you through this stage of life. If you want to stay strong, if you want to stay independent, then you need to be the one to make it happen. And that means refusing to let yourself become weak, refusing to let yourself give up, and refusing to believe that just because you're older, you're done. You're not done. You are still here. And as long as you're still here, you keep moving forward. At 60 and beyond, the greatest gift you can give yourself is self-reliance. While family is important, it's not always guaranteed to be there when you need them the most. Instead, by focusing on financial stability, health, friendship, self-sufficiency, and adaptability, you ensure a fulfilling, independent, and happy life. So let's not wait for anyone to take care of us. Let's start today, because the strongest support system is the one we build for ourselves. Thank you.